The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL. You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast.
The New Orleans Saints are expected, right? We have to say that it's expected. We have to say that it's reportedly will name Tyler Shough as their starting quarterback moving forward. Once we hear that from the Saints, then it becomes official. And unless the Saints have put out anything on social media in the last 6 minutes, then at this point, we're going to still say reported and everything like that. But this is very much the expectation, is that Tyler Shough will be the starting quarterback through the rest of the season for the New Orleans Saints. This would then give the team the opportunity to get a look at their rookie quarterback after getting 8 starts with Spencer Rattler to start the season. Of course, his final start in Tampa, ending in getting benched in the third quarter, and then the Saints turning over to Tyler Shough. That's part of why this decision is no big surprise. We'll dive into that here in just a sec. But now this gives the Saints a maximum, right, of around 9 games or of 9 games plus a bye week to get a look at Tyler Shough and then be able to go into the offseason and make an educated assumption, or rather educated series of decisions based on their quarterback position. So this is going to end up paying dividends for the New Orleans Saints one way or another. We'll get into the challenge on on Tyler Shough moving ahead, but this move was no surprise at all. And there were only a couple of things that you really needed to listen for to truly understand that. Kellen Moore making it very clear and being consistent about this all the way through, that he didn't want to flip-flop at the quarterback position. And so benching one quarterback for the other, and then going into the next week, going back to that first quarterback would have effectively been the flip-flopping that he said that this organization was trying to avoid at the position. The other thing is that the reason why they benched Spencer Rattler is because Kellen Moore felt that he needed to give the offense a spark. And there were a series of things that he said that they tried before changing out the quarterbacks, but then eventually shifted out the quarterbacks in an attempt to generate that spark, which effectively goes to say that if the Saints were to put Spencer Rattler back out on the field and they didn't get that spark again, that they would just make the decision all over again and then potentially go back to Tyler Shough. So the opportunity for greater flip-flopping beyond even just going back to Spencer Rattler was going to be there. And any person in that situation is then going to be looking over their shoulders. So just rolling ahead with Tyler Shough here is the right decision to make. Now, I don't want to get anything twisted. Spencer Rattler did not do enough to hold on to the starting job. That's bottom line, right? That's easy to see, or not easy to see, but that is a part of the story when it comes to this, right? Either you are the starting quarterback or you're not. And Spencer Rattler at one point was. He now is not, and he has handled every step of the way like a total pro. Going up to the podium to do media availability in the same game that he was benched along with Tyler Shough, continuing to speak to the media and everything, and has done a good job just in terms of being a pro. And look, Spencer Rattler has dealt with this before. He's been benched before, going back to his Oklahoma days. He's dealt with adversity, all this other stuff. But now the page turns to what could become now the Tyler Shough era, however short-lived or however long-lived it can be. And that's the other thing that I don't want to get twisted, is that Tyler Shough has clearly earned this opportunity. I've seen a lot of people say Tyler Shough's not ready yet without actually seeing Tyler Shough. And the only people that have actually really gotten a chance to see Tyler Shough is the coaching staff. So they're the only ones that get to make that determination. Now, once they put him out on the field, everyone learns for certain. But if the Saints didn't feel that he was ready, they wouldn't be turning the offense over to him. They would just go back to Spencer Rattler. So clearly they feel that Tyler Shough is ready. So with all of those things taken into consideration, this is not a surprise to see the Saints make this decision, but it is a monumental decision nonetheless. The surprise to me was benching Spencer Rattler in game. That didn't feel like a Kellen Moore move, or it was a Kellen Moore move, but it wasn't something that I projected as something that Kellen Moore would do in a game, but he did it. Kudos to Kellen Moore. Saw something he didn't like, made a change, right? And now he's continuing that change moving forward. The things that Kellen Moore has highlighted since we have spoken to him a couple of times since that game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he highlighted that he wants the offense to be more aggressive, that there's that there's some missed opportunities, that there were times where they had run plays that turned into throws, and that there's a sort of a desire for more explosive plays, which I think has been a desire all throughout the season up to this point. And so those are the things you're going to be looking for Tyler Shough to bring. Can he be more aggressive than Spencer Rattler was? Can he find the explosive plays at a higher rate and at a more successful rate than Spencer Rattler did? Can he help to take some of those RPOs and be able to create those rushing opportunities or see those rushing opportunities for his running backs? That's always a tricky part with the RPOs. The Saints ran the ball, I think it was 5 times in the first half up against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When you're instituting a lot of those RPOs, sometimes that ball gets pulled and it gets thrown. And so you're throwing on some of those run plays. Do we see a little bit of a different split that maybe is more to Kellen Moore's liking when it comes to Tyler Shough's decision-making versus Spencer Rattler's decision-making? It's not that one is more right than the other, but one might be more balanced than the other, whatever it might be. So there's a lot of things to look for here to see how it is that Tyler Shough can not only come in and become the Saints starter, but potentially hold on to that starting role. Because make no mistake about it, this is an audition for the New Orleans Saints 2026 starting quarterback role. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And so this becomes a very, very important part of the Kellen Moore era. This becomes a very, very important part of the Tyler Shough era, and it will be a long-standing, very important part of Spencer Rattler's continued story as well. And so we'll see how things ultimately pan out, but it will be this weekend up against the Los Angeles Rams that we're expecting to see Tyler Shough out on the football field as the Saints starting quarterback. That's a tough gig going up against that Los Angeles Rams team, that Los Angeles Rams defense, and getting that first start on the road. However, you can't make those decisions if you're an organization worrying about who your opponent is. You make those decisions about who your starting quarterback is based on what it is that you need as a franchise, what you need as an organization, and in some more specific cases, what you need as an offense. And I think that those are all a part of the decisions that have led the Saints to this point. And it's all part of why this isn't super surprising. And I don't mean to say that it's not surprising because Spencer Rattler was so clearly bad. I don't think that was the case. But I do think that there is a clear line of not being good enough in terms of what it is that Kellen Moore and the New Orleans Saints were looking for, not giving them what it is that they were looking for. And I do think that the obvious part of this is still very much there, which is that the Saints have told us what they were going to do all along. And it felt very obvious coming in. That's why we did this morning show as hey, this feels obvious. The Saints are going to do this, right? And then now it sounds like the Saints are absolutely doing this. Expect Tyler Shough to be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints going up against the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the next thing that we'll take a look at is how Spencer Rattler could potentially win his job for 2026, because that's what these next 9 games are going to be all about. We're going to focus on our film study coming out of watching Tyler Shough now that we know that he's going to be the starting quarterback, or now that we believe per reports that he's likely to be the Saints starting quarterback. We know what's happening here. We'll dive into a little bit of that in terms of some of those film notes. We'll push some of the NFL draft conversation for a little bit later. Thursday, of course, crossover Thursday, so on and so forth. So look, the New Orleans Saints are expected to turn this thing over now to rookie quarterback Tyler Shough, who was drafted in the 2nd round, 40th overall in this year's NFL draft. And now this is officially going to be his audition for the 2026 quarterback job for New Orleans. And he will have, his performance will have an immediate impact on not only the Saints' opinions about whether or not they should go specifically to the NFL draft looking for another quarterback, but he could completely alter the New Orleans Saints' opportunity and ability to go out there and select another quarterback in this NFL draft. Let me explain. So Saints have 9 games left, 6 of which will be on the road. It's all going to get started against the Los Angeles Rams. That's going to be a really tough matchup. I wouldn't put too much stock in what you see on the negative side when it comes to going up against the Rams. That's a tough environment. Well, not really a tough environment, but like SoFi Stadium is SoFi Stadium, but that's a tough team to go up against. That's a team that's going to pick your defense apart and find ways to stress out your offense by what they can do on their offensive side. Puka Nacua is coming back. All of it's going to be the team's going to be a bit outmatched in that matchup. But then they'll travel to Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers. They'll have a bye week. Then they'll be at home up against the Falcons, and then they're on the road against the Dolphins and the Bucs. Remember the Dolphins? Then they've got 2 home games against the Jets and the Titans. Remember those 2 games. Remember the Titans, as they love to say. And then you've got the Falcons on the road at the end of the season. So there's a couple of things. Oh, sorry. And then there's the Panthers in there as well. So there's a couple of things to highlight about the way that the schedule breaks out and how it impacts what can happen for Tyler Shough. First of all, 2 teams he'll see twice. And I do think that there is something to that. Actually, 3 teams he'll see for a second time, because he'll see the Panthers twice. He'll see the Falcons twice, and then he'll see the Buccaneers for a second time after having played against them for the majority of the second half up this past weekend as he entered the game in that third quarter. So for me, I think that that is something that's worth noting, that he'll get an opportunity to take some swings with familiarity at a later point in the season. So something just to remember there. But for me, it's the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Titans games. Those are the 3 games to me that are the most important for Tyler Shough. Those are bad teams, meaning that those are winnable games. Those are defenses that you should be able to perform against. And most importantly, all 3 of those teams, the Dolphins, the Jets, the Titans, are right there with you as the New Orleans Saints in competition for the number 1 overall selection in this year's upcoming draft. Meaning that if Tyler Shough goes and beats the Dolphins in Miami, leads the team to a win at home against the Jets, and finds a way to get a victory in Nashville up against the Tennessee Titans, he could push the Saints further and further and further away from even having the capability and resources to draft a potential replacement for him, thereby helping to solidify himself as the starting quarterback in 2026. This might be beyond the otherworldly best case scenario. This would be the very manageable best case scenario for Tyler Shough, is win your team out of the first round pick by beating the other teams that are in contention for the first round pick, and thereby showing that you can win games with this quarterback. Remember, there was a lot of conversation around Spencer Rattler early on in the year. Is he good enough to win games? Can you win with him? Or are you just simply not losing because of him, even though you are losing? And that became this big conversation, right? And we broke down like what we look at when it comes to the 4 stages of quarterbacking. Either you're the quarterback that can play, you're the quarterback that they can win with, you're the quarterback that they can win because of, or you're the franchise quarterback. And every quarterback goes through some version of proving that they are one of those 4 things, or no longer having an NFL job, right? And so for Tyler Shough, he could quickly enter himself into the conversation of the guy that you can win with, and then try to move you into the place of going out there and winning because of him. And so for me, like, this is what Tyler Shough can do to put himself in the best position possible to be the 2026 quarterback for this team. Beat the Dolphins, beat the Jets, beat the Titans at the very, very least. And that, to me, is the thing. I'm not saying that the Saints should do that or that they shouldn't do that. I think there are a lot of people who are going to say, no, we want the number 1 overall pick. Totally fine, totally understandable. I get that. But here's the thing. If you get the number 1 overall pick, you're taking a quarterback. It's happening. And so if you're Tyler Shough, you don't want that. You don't want them to go out there and draft the number 1 overall quarterback in next year's draft, because that guy is seeing the football field. You're not keeping the number 1 overall selection off the field. You feel me? And so that's what I'm talking about. For Tyler Shough, that would be the right thing for him, or that would be a good thing for him and his opportunity that's ahead of him to get done. So for that, those are the games I'm looking for. The other things that you're looking for is, could you go out there and find a way to compete with the Rams as quickly as this weekend? Could you go out there and find a way to compete with the Panthers that have been a surprisingly good game? What about going to Tampa and playing the Bucs for a second time? Can you show that you have made, that there's a big difference between when you get thrown in the second half of a game versus when you actually have the opportunity to start with some starts under your belt and getting prepared as the starter for a game, right? Those are two very, very different circumstances. So he's going to have the opportunity to show some immediate improvement against a familiar defense. He'll see two other defenses that will eventually become familiar. And he's got one really, really challenging game, one really, really challenging opponent this upcoming week with the Los Angeles Rams. And so for me, this is kind of what you're looking. Now, best case scenario is that he wins out and all of a sudden the Saints are 9 and or I guess technically it would be 10-7. That's the best. That's the otherworldly best case scenario. But we know that's not going to be the case because this team has a lot of holes and deficiencies, and the quarterback question is only a part of the question mark when it comes to the New Orleans Saints here in 2025. There's a lot of other stuff that they need to get figured out. They need better protection up front. They need a better run game. They need the ball carriers to make the catches that hit them in the hands. Like, there's a lot of different things that have gone wrong for this New Orleans Saints offense, and that could potentially clutter Tyler Shough's opportunity. Because if Tyler Shough is playing mostly well, but the protection's not there, the ball carriers aren't catching the football, and you end up with the number 1 overall selection, guess what? You're still probably taking the quarterback. And so right now, going into this game, after the 2 limited exposures that he's had so far, he's 17 of 32 with a 53.1% completion percentage for 128 yards. He's got 1 interception, been sacked twice, and he's also got 3 rushes for 12 yards. Nothing spectacular so far. So what you're looking to show if you're Tyler Shough is that there's a big difference between being the quarterback that's thrown in the second half and the quarterback that gets an opportunity to prepare as a starter.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
Drake May isn't just an MVP candidate. After the halfway point of the season, we'll tell you why he's the guy to beat.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast.
Last couple weeks, we've talked about Drake May and the MVP conversation, quote unquote. And I've said that, yes, before this point, before week 8, before that game against the Cleveland Browns, Drake May was unequivocally in the conversation for the MVP. He was in the conversation. Post Browns, I think Drake May is your MVP favorite. Now, when we talk about MVP favorites, we all have to understand, acknowledge, and embrace the idea that we're splitting hairs. We're talking about some of the best players in football, and really, unfairly, best of the best quarterbacks in football, because as we know, quarterbacks usually win the MVP. And so 1 week, 2 weeks can mean the difference. One bad week for one quarterback, while another quarterback does great, that can put that other quarterback that did great ahead in the race. And so when you look at what happened during week 8, now we are at the halfway point getting ready for week 9. Dak Prescott was not good last week for the Cowboys. They got trounced big time. You look at Baker Mayfield. I thought Baker Mayfield was leading this race going back 3 weeks ago. Last 2 weeks, Baker has not been very good. You might say Daniel Jones, as the Indianapolis Colts continue to win football games. I would say, well, Daniel Jones has Jonathan Taylor, who I think should be in the MVP conversation. And as I've just said a few moments ago, the quarterbacks usually win, and that's probably why Jonathan Taylor is not getting as much pub to be the MVP, because he plays running back. Jared Goff, a lot of people look at the team that he has, the weapons around him. I would say he has more help than Drake May. To me, my opinion, the MVP race through the first half of this season is down to 2 individuals. It is Patrick Mahomes versus Drake May. With that in mind, we asked the question, how do those two guys stack up? Mahomes versus May. Let's look at the traditional statistics. Passing yards, Patrick Mahomes, 2,099. Drake May, 2,026. Practically the same. Touchdowns, Patrick Mahomes, 17. Drake May, 15. So slight edge in yards, slight edge in passing touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes. Completion percentage, Drake May, big advantage. 75.2% is Drake May's completion percentage. Patrick Mahomes at 67%. And if you're looking at passer rating, big advantage for Drake May. May is number one in all of football at 118.7. Meanwhile, Mahomes is ranked 10th in passer rating at 103.1. So when you look at the traditional statistics, it's 2 versus 2. When you look at the analytics, QBR from ESPN, this is kind of eerie, but Drake May is tied with Patrick Mahomes in QBR. They both are at exactly 76.3. Kind of crazy. EPA, according to Sumer Sports, Patrick Mahomes is first, Drake May is fourth. EPA per play, May is actually tied with Mahomes. They're tied for fourth, and that includes Lamar Jackson, who has only played 131 plays versus 300 plus for Drake May and Patrick Mahomes. Total adjusted EPA, according to Kevin Cole, Drake May is second, Patrick Mahomes is seventh. Completion percentage over expected, May is number one in the NFL. When you look at the traditional stats and then you look at the analytics, I would say Drake May has the overall slight edge. But the help around May, even though it's better than it was in 2024, is still well below many others. Ben Solak of ESPN wrote, May's running game constantly puts him in difficult spots. On non-quarterback runs this season, the Patriots are 26th in yards per carry, 30th in success rate. Ben Solak continues, May faces 7.6 yards to go on third down. The league average is 7.5. Dak Prescott has the third shortest third downs. Daniel Jones is second. Yet on third and fourth downs, May is second in the league in EPA per dropback and seventh in first down / touchdown rate. The schedule, Nick, it's the schedule. How can you give Drake May the MVP after the first 8 games given the schedule he's played? Well, let's go back to Ben Solak of ESPN. In obvious past situations, Solak writes, there is no quarterback playing better. And we've touched on this throughout the year, but third and fourth down, passing downs, Solak writes, on plays with an NFL next-gen stats pre-snap pass probability of 75% or higher. So plays that you can predict 75% will be a pass play because defenses are expecting pass, dialing up blitzes. Drake May, under those circumstances, is first in EPA per dropback. He is second in success rate and second in passer rating. So when you look at obvious pass situations, Drake May is the best quarterback in the NFL when facing those circumstances. Third and fourth down dominance. Third and long, better than anyone else. Then you can mention the offensive line. May is 10th in the league in quick pressure rate, according to Ben Solak, which speaks to a porous offensive line. In fairness, I would say some of that quick pressure is on May himself. A lot of that quick pressure is on the team, tight ends, running backs. And nobody is better throwing the deep ball than Drake May. Fantasy football data. Drake May on throws 20-plus air yards. He's first in completion percentage over expected, second in passer rating. He's tied for first for highly accurate throw percentage. He's tied for first in catchable throw percentage. And he is first when it comes to off-target percentage. So Drake May, the best on third and fourth down, the best deep ball thrower, analytically, statistically, a top 5 quarterback pretty much across the board. Things might absolutely change, and there's plenty of time for things to change. That's why it's the halfway point. But right now, at that halfway point, Drake May, in my humble opinion, is the MVP of the NFL. I think he just edges out Patrick Mahomes. It's close, but I think Drake May has had the better overall season. And even when you account for schedule, even when you account for certain circumstances they face, when you look at the help that they have, Drake May is the MVP through 8 weeks. Playing against the toughest defense that he has played against all year, the Cleveland Browns last weekend, he continued to show why he's one of the best quarterbacks in football this year. And as we talked about earlier in the week, he aced that test.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for this weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I want to bet in the moment. Player props, building a same-game parlay, jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Breaking news, the Rams have traded for a cornerback.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast.
We've been talking about possible trades and whether the Rams would address the cornerback situation with Ahkello Witherspoon out till probably week 14 or 15, dealing with that broken clavicle. Kobe Durant and Darius Williams and Emmanuel Forbes have played better of late, but they did make a move. Adam Schefter tweeted, trade. Titans are sending cornerback Roger McCreary to the Rams for a conditional 5th and 6th round pick swap per sources. Conditions. Titans get 5th round pick close to the beginning of the round, which most likely will be the Titans' original 5th round pick. Rams receive the 6th round conditional pick that is close to the end of the round. Titans currently have 3 6th round picks. So basically, it's almost like you're getting the pick back from the Ernest Jones trade. But Travis, what is your reaction to this trade?
I think there's a couple of things that I pull out of this. Number one, I mean, I don't think you had to be a football expert to understand that this is the spot on the team where the Rams were the most vulnerable, right? When you look at their roster and you look at what they're really good at, they've got the quarterback, they've got the weapons offensively. Their offensive line feels like it's been good enough to make a run for what they're doing. Their pass rush says, speaks for itself, I should say, that where they needed some work was in the back half of the defense. And going out and getting McCreary, I think, makes them better. I don't know if it makes them great, but I do think it makes them better. That's number one. Number two, I think it speaks to kind of what, Doug, you and I have talked about for years now here, what our everydayers will certainly remember, which is when the Rams think they have a chance to go do something big, they don't wait around and hope that something happens. They go out and they try to make something happen. And this isn't Von Miller, and this isn't Matthew Stafford, and this isn't Jalen Ramsey. This player isn't, on that level. But what it is, hey, we're close. We have a vulnerability in the secondary. This allows us to get better with McCreary. And I think it lets us know that they believe that they're close to contending for a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. I think with Roger McCreary, it is a move where, this is not of the caliber of the Jalen Ramseys or the Von Millers or some of these massive blockbuster moves we've seen the Rams make, where they're not just addressing the need, they're trying to put themselves over the top. This is not what this is. This is someone who's going to improve your roster. A lot of Rams fans are happy about it. A lot of Titans fans are upset about it. That's usually a good thing. But if you look at just who he is as a player, it's a low risk, high reward move for the Rams. I mean, he's a impending free agent. He has a $4.617 cap hit for 2025. If he does perform well in his opportunity with the Rams, they could keep him around. But like the rest of the cornerbacks in this room, there's going to be a lot of decisions to make because none of these guys are really locked up long term. So he could be a more inexpensive option to bring back when you look at this group moving forward. But as far as, hey, it's about how can he help this team this year, right? That's more of the concern for me. And if you look at just his overall production level as a player, he's been someone who's had experience. He started 38 games with the Titans over the past 4 years. That role has gone down recently. Did have an interception in the Titans' Week 1 loss. He also had a sack in their Week 8 loss. Has 3 interceptions, 17 passes defended, 4 sacks, and 253 combined tackles in 55 career games. He's young, 25. He has some upside. If you look at, of course, we did say we weren't going to mention PFF grades for the history of the show because you had Geno Smith higher than Patrick Mahomes for one of these, but they do have him ranked as the 36th out of 112 cornerbacks this year. So, yeah, I mean, this is someone who's, we'll see if he's the big game changer, but I don't think that's the case. I think they like the upside.
I think so too. I think what you said is right. I don't think that there's a ton of risk here. The capital going out, the draft pieces are not something that's going to make or break your draft. The Rams have shown that they can find players in the 5th and 6th round, so there'll still be some opportunities to do that thing there. But I think what you said, especially Doug, is mostly true, which is this is about today. This is about what's going to happen this season. Now, did they go out there and find somebody that can match up with a number one wide receiver like an A.J. Brown or somebody like that? No, but I think they're better today than they were yesterday, which I think is the goal for this team at this point. You still got another week or so before the trade deadline, so maybe this is the beginning of some moves. But, yeah, I agree with you. I think this is something that the Rams decided that will help them in 2025. I don't know if this was a deal that was done with anything beyond that in mind, and quite frankly, I'm okay with that. I think that trying to plan for what's coming up in the NFL years from now, other than at the quarterback position, is a bit of a fool's errand. I think that everything changes so much so quickly that as long as the quarterback and the head coach are mostly right, you can kind of figure the rest of the pieces out on the fly. And I think that's what they're doing right now. I think that this is a really positive sign that they believe they got a chance to go in there and do some damage, and they're trying to get better at the thing they were worst at.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a really good point for sure, is that it already just signals what we already knew, but it makes it official that they want to win in 2025 and they want to improve their roster any way they can, even if it is something that could be marginal at the end of the day. I mean, He was a 2nd-round pick in 2022. He's someone that it's basically the Titans pick up a 5th for a 6th, so you're not giving up a ton of draft capital or anything like that. Over the weekend, just because it was the bye weekend, I mean, kind of had some fun dropping out big names. Could they go out there and Rams fans wanting Sauce Gardner? Truth is, the Jets, they just signed him to a new deal back in July. That's a minimum 1st-round pick, possibly 2 1st-round picks. He had a guy that's the highest-paid cornerback in the league. So, yeah, I mean, this is not a situation, they wanted Cadillac, they got a Vega or something like that. They wanted to improve this roster. And the way that Rams feature cornerbacks, they don't ask their cornerbacks to be these game-changing positions players for this team, right? That's just kind of not what they do. And they play to their strengths, which is you're getting pressure up front. Nate Landman's broken out to be a star. Quentin Lake's having a Pro Bowl level year. Cam Kinchins. I mean, you got really good players on this team. You just want the cornerbacks not to lose the game for you, not necessarily have to win the game for you.
Yeah, to kind of extend your car analogy, it's not a Corvette or what they added is another, 95,000 mile an hour Toyota Camry. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's going to run for a long time. It's going to get you to and from where you need to go every day. It's not going to win you any races. It's not going to meet you any women, but it's one of these things that, we got another guy that's a pretty good player. You can put him in the stable and you can put him out there. And once he gets up to speed and what they're trying to do schematically, I think that he'll be another good player. This isn't a shutdown guy. This isn't, somebody that's a lot better than what they had. I think it's another guy like what they had. And, when you got more choices to use, I think that's always a good thing. And I like it. I like it because of the player who it is. And I like the fact that it didn't really cost them all that much to go out there and do it. And most importantly, I like it because it kind of signals to Rams fans and to people like us, Doug, that we're on the right track as far as them believing that they've got a really good chance to make some noise this year.